Welcome back to another video. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. I'm absolutely delighted and thrilled to welcome former Tottenham Hotspur and England star Darren Anderton. Darren, 299 appearances in a Spurs shirt in the Premier League, 34 goals, 67 assists, 28 appearances in the FA Cup for Spurs, 6 goals, 31 appearances in the League Cup, 8 goals, League Cup winner with Spurs in 1999. Played for England between 1994 and 2001, 30 caps, 7 goals. Darren, how are you? And thank you so much for coming on.
I'm doing great, thanks. Good to see you. Out in California now, so having a bit of a better lockdown than you guys over there. Still able to get on the golf course and go out to dinner with outdoor dining and that sort of thing. And the weather hasn't been so bad either. So, you know, we were in Spain for the early part of lockdown, and then London for the latter part of last year. So we know it's been, you know, it's tough everywhere, but especially over there at the moment. So I hope everyone's doing okay. Lovely.
Darren, I want to take you back to 1992, obviously signed for Spurs. Now, you grew up as a Southampton fan. You went to play for Portsmouth and then signed for Tottenham. Terry Venables got that deal over the line. And then you made your Tottenham Hotspur debut in the Premier League against Southampton. How was that?
Yeah, it was a nightmare, really. I mean, funny enough, as a kid growing up watching Southampton, I'd watched some pretty good teams as well down there with Kevin Keegan and players like that. So it was, I guess my dream was always to play in the Premier League, or what would have been the old Division 1, you know, probably for Southampton. So to make my Premier League debut at the top level for Spurs, which, you know, of course, you know, Saints fans won't appreciate, but Spurs are obviously a much bigger club, and I would much rather be playing at Tottenham than Southampton. So to make my debut there was unbelievable. But the fact that I'd come from Portsmouth made it a very strange feeling of sitting front row on the East Stand there with my dad, to taking throw-ins over on that side and getting absolute all sorts of abuse. So it was a strange feeling. The game itself was really quite dull, actually, and I think the biggest cheer was when Francis Benali gave me an elbow and gave me 8 stitches above my eye. So it wasn't the best start to my career at Spurs. It was a tough game. But it showed me what it was all about. It was going to be tough, and after having such a good year at Portsmouth, it brought me down to earth a little bit.
Darren, how did you feel initially knowing that Terry Venables was after you and Tottenham wanted to sign you? Did you feel excited? Were there other clubs sniffing around at that time as well?
I was absolutely buzzing. I couldn't believe it. I think that you know, I'd had one full season in professional football really with Portsmouth, and that was at a lower level. Of course, yeah, we had a great season. We got the FA Cup semi-final. I scored some good goals. You know, I had some great performances. You know, my confidence was sky high, and there was lots of talk. And I think the main talk was between Spurs and Liverpool. You know, which culminated in us playing Liverpool in the semi-final, and lots of people asking questions. You know, would I go and play there? You know, right before the game, and of course I was like, no, I'm happy where I am, which I was, and I wanted to play for Portsmouth in the Premier League. You know, I didn't think things could get any better. I enjoyed my time so much there. So when the opportunity came, I couldn't believe it really. I think that I got the phone call after we had an end of season tour in Spain with the boys at Portsmouth. Got back, and Jim Smith called me and just said that the club had accepted a bid from Tottenham. Of course, he knew the chairman, Jim Gregory at Portsmouth, very well anyway from his time at QPR, so knew that £2 million was a big lump for a 20-year-old with just 1 year's experience. But he just told me, I just said, well, what do I do? He said, no, you got to go and speak to Terry. He said, you know, he'll make you the player that you should be. You have everything, you know, and the way you work hard. You know, I have no problem passing you on to Terry Venables. You know, you're going to have a wonderful career. So just go and have a chat with him. And that was it. And, you know, I was so in awe of going up to Tottenham and meeting at the hotel. And then once I sat in the room with Terry and, you know, others, it was like that. It was done within 2 minutes. I was, you know, taken back by him and the aura that he had. And to think that I was going to go and play at Tottenham week in, week out, I couldn't believe it. Then going to the ground for my medical and walking out onto the pitch with my mum and dad into the empty stadium just was, you know, took my breath away, really.
Darren, what players looked after you when you arrived at Spurs? Anyone in particular?
I don't know if they looked after me, but Sid was there. You better grow up pretty quick. And
I was gonna ask that. Steve Sedgley, you hear so many stories and crazy stories. Him and Gazza. Who was worse out of them two? Obviously, you played with Gazza for England, because he'd left by the time you arrived. But Steve Sedgley, tell us about some of the stories that he got up to.
Oh, them you can't really say, but he just sort of things boys do in the dressing room and all sorts. And before, be out. I would stay out and do a bit of crossing and finishing and things like that. And every now and again, you'd look over and you look into the trees and just see some of your gear hung up in the trees and all that. And, oh no, what's he done now? Then another day, you see Eric Torsfeld chasing him around the training ground. What's he done now? And you could only imagine. Gazza, of course, exactly the same. But I didn't, with England during Euro '96, and of course everyone knows about the dentist chair and all those sort of things. So. But on a day-to-day basis, I mean, Sedge was mad, and being on tours with him, still obviously a really good mate of mine. Roomed with him as well a few times, which was different. So I grew up really quick in that change room. I think I struggled initially. The boys all helped me out. David Howes, I think, was different class with me. Always, I think he could see that I was going to be a decent player and took me under his wing a bit. And then of course Teddy came as well and just hit it with Teddy, on and off the pitch from day one really, even though I struggled initially with my first few months at the club. Once I had my hernia operation, and after Christmas I was absolutely flying. Teddy was golden boot, and I was lucky enough to set up most of the goals.
I was going to ask that, Darren. Obviously you signed, and then shortly after Teddy Sheringham arrived. How did you two hit it off? Was it very much from the off? Because you two really gelled, from the off, didn't you? It was absolutely fantastic, and I know you've got huge admiration for him. You speak very, very highly of him. But how can you sum up, playing with him?
Well, I think the best thing is, he makes every player he plays with a better player, because he makes things easy for you. He makes such simple movements, but players don't, defenders, they don't know where he's going. If he wants the ball long, he'll come short first. It's simple movements, but a lot of players don't do it. A lot of players now you watch and they're just walking around, then it's a sudden burst. Teddy was always on the move, always thinking. Whether I had the ball on the edge of my own box and I was trying to knock the ball up towards the halfway line, do I drill it over the top or do I put it into his feet? It's movement. You could see him, what his movement was. If he was running away, I know if I've got to knock it in short, he's going to come back and get it. And that's, it's really quite simple, but that's a thing that most players don't do. Whether that was down to, his, people talk about his lack of pace, and he had to do that. But I'm sure, his upbringing in the game as well, and his basic knowledge of football was better than anyone I played with. So to be a player that played wide, and a lot of wingers maybe try and beat their fullback 2 or 3 times and get the crowd on their feet. Yes, I like to beat the fullback, but the point is then to put the ball in the box for my striker to score a goal. So I think Ted just loved that and knew that, with me, he knew that I would be dropping my shoulder and whipping the ball in. He knew when he needed to make his run as well. So we just hit it off, and then of course off the pitch as well. We had a great set of lads, and we all socialised together, and it quickly became a really enjoyable team to play for.
With the great working relationship that you and Teddy had, did you never think about going into management or coaching together?
No, not really. Funny enough, when he did go into management, the first thing he did was ask if I was still fancy playing. But that
did he?
Yeah, a couple of times. Yeah, so he knew the way I, even at 75%, I suppose I could still play. He knew what I was all about and the ability I had. But who knows? Maybe in the future. But I think we're both happy on the golf course at the minute.
Darren, what are your favourite memories of that first season at Spurs, though, in that 92-93 season? Because you played 34 Premier League games for Spurs that season, scoring 6 goals. We got to the FA Cup semi-final as well. Sadly, got knocked out by Arsenal. And do you remember that game, February '93, 1-0 at home? We 1-0 down against Southampton at home, and then in 4 minutes, 48 seconds, 4 goals. Mad game.
Yeah, and my first Premier League goal against my hometown, and I think I might have set up one or two as well. And that was just, I think that was the game where I just thought, yes, I'm okay. I'm going to be all right here, you know. So I certainly had lots of doubts in the early months, and that to score my first goal, you know, I think it was live on Sky, and it was a great game anyway. But it was an amazing 4 or 5 minutes, and as I say, still have lots of banter with my mates from Southampton. So any goal I scored against Southampton or any win, I always enjoyed very much. But that whole time around there, I think we played Wimbledon the following week in a big FA Cup game, and we battered them. We were 3-0 up at half time. You know, the team just really clicked around that time. So I think the game up at Manchester City is probably the one that, you know, probably stood out to me. The performance, the names, hat-trick, the atmosphere at Man City was pretty toxic, and you know, we played them off the park really, and that was great times. And then being in you just remember little things like the buzz and being in the change room after that game, and the real belief that we would go on and get to the final, which obviously didn't happen.
Darren, going into the 93-94 season, Ossie Ardiles come in as manager. Now, what was life like under Ossie Ardiles? I know we're obviously come on to the 94-95 season when Klinsmann came, but you know, that initial season with Ossie appointed as manager, what was that like?
It was great. I mean, Ossie was such a good guy. I mean, obviously everyone looked up to him for what he had done as a player at the club and everything else. And I knew I had played against Newcastle when I was at Portsmouth, and God, did they play some good football. And, you know, that I was really looking forward to. And of course, he did the same at Swindon. So initially, obviously, just pure disappointment in the fact that Terry had left the club. For me, it was devastating. I couldn't believe that, you know, that second half of the season had gone so well. Terry's the man. He helped me through when I struggled. So for him to leave, that was, for me, I just couldn't get my head around it. But, you know, that's football. You learn. So again, you learn and you grow up pretty quick. And Ossie comes in, and he was great for me. You know, whenever, you know, as a wide man, you know, so you go periods of time without getting the ball, very frustrating. And he just said to me, you know, if that happens, you go and get it. You know, you get on the ball, because the way he looked at it was our team should be in possession most of the time. You know, you've got to keep the ball. So just go and float and get yourself in areas where you can pick up the ball and go and do your thing. And that was you know, what player doesn't want to hear that? And it was so enjoyable to play under Ossie. And, you know, that first season after Teddy got injured was, you know, a bit of a struggle. But for me personally, you know, I went from strength to strength, and, you know, I got my England debut that year as well. And, you know, it was a struggle towards the end of the season, and we should never be in a relegation battle at all. But we were slipping. We had a run after Christmas where we lost 7 or 8 on the bounce, and it was a hell of a way. But fortunately, Teddy got himself back fit and back in the team, and we were okay.
Darren, let's talk about your England debut back in 1994 against Denmark under Terry Venables again. How was that for you? You know, playing for your country, that must have been a huge moment for you.
Oh, a huge honour, and that's the dream. I think when you're a kid in the garden, you know, smashing the ball against the neighbour's fence, and, you know, the neighbours aren't happy. You know, that's the dream. You're pretending you're playing for England at Wembley. So for it to happen was just an amazing feeling. Having Terry Venables be the manager just added to it for me, of course, because of what he had done for me and in my career, and now he's given me my England debut. My confidence was sky high in how I was playing, but you never know. Are you good enough to make that next step? So nervous as hell. The morning of the game, we get, you know, a team meeting. He says the team, and I'm in it. I couldn't believe it. I thought maybe I'll be on the bench. I was just hoping to, you know, get on for 5 minutes. Say I play for England. So now I'm playing. I can't believe it. It's full England debut. And in the afternoon, we had a sleep. And I always remember getting a knock on my door, and it was Gaza, of all people. I'm like, oh no, what's he going to do? I was, you know, already fragile, nervous as hell. And he just came in. He just said, oh, you know, have you got a shaver? I was like, yeah, I think so. I mean, at that point, I wasn't even sure if I was even shaving, but he just came in, and he just said, look, I just want to have a chat and just want you to enjoy tonight. He said, you should be here. Don't you have any doubts about that? He said, Terry bought me at 20. He bought you at 20. Terry knows what he's doing. He said, you are going to have an unbelievable England career. He said, you belong here. Just enjoy it. He said, don't let it pass you by. He said, I don't remember my debut. He said, make sure you don't do the same. Just enjoy it. He said, it's going to be great. And it was. It was, people talk about, the other side of Gaza, but that is one moment that has always stuck out to me. And on top of that, I go on and have one of my best games of my career, I think, considering this situation and everything. And I was absolutely buzzing. I'll always be grateful that Gaza come knocking on my door.
Darren, do you still keep in touch with Paul Gascoigne or not?
Haven't seen him for a while, to be honest. Of course, I'm out here, and I'd seen him a couple of times in Bournemouth because he was down there. And then obviously last time I saw him, spoke to him, was at the Legends game that opened the stadium. I mean, he's just a great guy, and you just hope that he's going to be okay. It seems like he's doing okay at the moment, but you just never know. And of course, he's going through tough times at different times, and especially at the moment. Of course, just hope he's doing okay. Yeah,
absolutely. Darren, let's come on to probably my favourite season. Apart from the Pochettino days, this entertaining football, my favourite season, growing up, 1994, 1995, Jurgen Klinsmann just signed. Now, when he signed, how on earth did you and the other Tottenham players feel?
I think I was on holiday in America at the time. I was there, obviously. I think my mum had called me and just said, oh, how you doing, blah, blah, oh, did you hear the news that, Jurgen Klinsmann signed? I was like, yeah, of course, yeah, good one. No chance. And then, of course, to see the news and see, Jurgen on Sir Sugar's boat in Monaco, I'm like, oh my Lord, unbelievable. Because obviously the World Cup had just been out, was in America as well. So, and I think he was the top scorer, no doubt, or one of them, even though Germany got knocked out. Couldn't believe it. So, and then the Dimitrescu, Popescu, going for pre-season. Who's happy to go back to pre-season? But wow, the boys were buzzing to know that they were coming in, and to meet Jurgen, a little bit nervy. He's a real superstar, nicest guy you could ever wish to meet. Romanian boys as well. They just settled in from day one, and it was so exciting. Pre-season, all games were delayed kickoffs because the fans were trying to get in. Everyone wanted to watch us. I just had, a great season. I'm now an England player. I think I'd done well in the summer. What was the Umbro Cup? I was coming out. I was buzzing. Absolutely buzzing. So you could only imagine what it was like as we got closer and closer to the start of the season. And that first game for me will always, stand out as one of the, most exciting games I ever played in, and fun and everything you dream of, really, in a football match in the Premier League. It's a job, but boy, oh boy, it's a pretty good one when you're playing in games like that.
Darren, that first Premier League game of that season, beating Sheffield Wednesday 4-3 away, and that goal celebration of him diving. Who come up with that?
I actually think it was David Kerslake or Teddy on the bus when we were playing a pre-season game on the Wednesday before the start of the season in Shelbourne, I think it was, and we were, I think one of those two just said, wouldn't it be great? Because of course we all were reading about the stuff about Jurgen diving and this and everything else. He had the history of and the reputation of doing so. Wouldn't it be great if he scores and does a dive? That'll be different class. And so we said to him, if you scored tonight, you got to do a dive. That'd be great fun. Luckily, he didn't score, and it wasn't wasted. I thought, no disrespect to Shelbourne, but it was the perfect scenario. Yeah. It was first Premier League game for Spurs, and he scores the goal that puts us 4-2 up, and pretty much wins the game for us. Magic. I put the cross in, but wasn't a great deal of pace in the cross. Just pinged it in there, and the power he got in the header was just unreal. And then, of course, the celebration was the best.
Obviously, then we beat Everton at home 2-1, and then the goal celebrations again. But what was it like for you as an attacking player? Playing with the likes of Klinsmann, Sheringham, Nicky Barmby there, you had Dumitrescu, as you say, a whole host of talented attacking players there. It
was unreal. Of course, it was so exciting. And again, with Ossie's philosophy that you shouldn't give the ball away. When we asked him, what do we do when we defend? When we lose the ball, it's, you shouldn't be giving the ball away. Look at the players in this dressing room. It wasn't just those 5 going forward. It was the 2 fullbacks. It was just, I think that first game was probably Sol, Stuart Nethercott and Colin Calderwood sitting in midfield. So it was back and forth. It was like a basketball game. It was unreal to play in. I think I've always considered myself to be a team player, so I would always feel myself be the one running back probably more than most, and being a really fit lad growing up as well, I was able to do that. Illy on the other side didn't quite see defensive duties in quite the same way I did, so that's where the team became a little bit lopsided at times, and people worked that out and could hit us on the counter attack, which was such a shame because it was so entertaining, so fun. And then, of course, Ossie in the end was sacked, which was such a shame because I don't think he was far off being a top team. But in those days, I think maybe we needed, if we had more defenders or better defenders. Sol was just a kid in those days as well coming through. So I guess it was never really going to work, but it was really enjoyable when it did.
It was fantastic from a fan's point of view. I tell you, absolutely fantastic. But as you say, Gerry Francis then come in. Ossie Ardiles was sacked. Gerry Francis come in. I remember his first Premier League game, Aston Villa at home, and it was still high scoring, 4-3. What a game that was!
Yeah, it was madness, wasn't it? Unfortunately, we were on the opposite end of the result. I think we were down. I don't know if it was 3-0 or 3-1, but we
3-0. Yeah.
Yeah, we come back to 3-all. Unbelievable. Looked like we were going to go on and win the game, and then Dean Saunders scores a great goal in the last minute, and it deflated the whole place. But of course, at that point, we hadn't really done any work with Gerry. We just carried on doing what we were doing, but with Gerry, we worked really hard on the training ground, on the shape of the team, defensively, 4-4-2. The 4 midfielders work hard, get back. For me, of course, to help my full back and block passes. It worked really well because that team, we were always going to create chance. We're always going to score goals. And what Gerry gave us was a base to go from when we lost the ball. And that's what we needed. And we knew that. And I think from that point where Gerry came in, I think we were either second or third best team in the league on points going forward, getting to the semi-final of the FA Cup again. We had played some classic games, and Jurgen and Teddy were on fire. Nicky Barmby, different class. It was still such an exciting team to play in, but at the same time, they had the work ethic and the shape that a football team should have.
We should have won a trophy that season. We really should. Daniel Amakarchi ruined it.
The Amakarchi one, I think Jurgen or someone, Stuart Nethercott hit the post in the semi-final. We were 2-1 down 5 minutes ago, and then he goes up the other end and scores a goal when we're all piling forward. It was, I think that was one of the most disappointing results, I think, in my career. I think that would have been, as a kid growing up, you watch the FA Cup semi-finals and finals. Those are the games you want to play in. And of course, at that point, that was down my third loss in the semi-final of an FA Cup in 4 years, and I'm still just 23. So that was a tough one. That was one that we, on paper, we should win. But they were a brute of a team, and they played a style that made it very difficult to play against, and on a pitch that was shocking and everything else. And it was just, sometimes it's just one of those days, but really, really disappointing. I remember sitting in that dressing room afterwards, and I think there was a few tears. The boys felt like they'd let themselves down.
Yeah. Darren, talking about Gerry Francis, from what I understand, you got on very, very well with Gerry Francis, and he is one of the reasons why you didn't leave Spurs, because, of course, Man United come calling. Yeah,
definitely. I love playing for Gerry. I think that, he was such a nice guy, first and foremost. He knew what I was all about as a player. He respected how, yes, I had lots of ability, but he loved how hard I used to work as well for the team. And I think that, in that 94-95 season, I think Gica Pescu picked up an injury, so I ended up coming inside and playing centrally with Halsey, and I just loved it. I spoke to you earlier about the frustration of playing out wide at times when you don't get the ball. And, as a kid, I was a centre midfielder, and I think that's where everyone wants to play. Everyone wants to be involved in the game. and the way I could get up and down the pitch and get here, there, and everywhere. I could still get wide and put balls in the box. That's just where I wanted to play. And Gerry, after we played one game, I think we played Sheffield Wednesday at home, and I played in there, and I had a pretty good game. And he was, buzzing with that. And at that point, he was like, cool, love having you in there. And then when Jika moved on, he said, "Are you sure you want to play in there? Are you sure you want to play in there? Because I'm going to go out and get Foxy to play right wing if that's the case." I'm like, "Yeah, no, 100%." So that's where the fact that Foxy come and joined us, who was obviously a really good player as well, and really added to our squad at that time. But I just felt that Gerry always got the best out of me. And that summer, when the opportunity came to go to United, and I had the clause in my contract that said that for a certain fee I could go, which United and I think Blackburn both met. I was happy where I was, and but hopefully you can tell how I talk about Spurs, and I enjoyed so much my time there, even though of course there was lots of ups and downs. That season, 94-95, again, probably one of my favourites. So it didn't feel right to leave after that, even though Jurgen unfortunately was moving on, and then a couple of months into the season, Nicky Barmby then left, Gita Popescu went to Barcelona. So it was a real shame that team didn't stay together for another year or two.
Have you never regretted that decision?
I've regretted not winning more trophies for sure, and watching
United,
win the treble that year and things like that, and to thought of that I could have been part of that. Yeah, as I said, what the dream is to win things and play in cup finals and win the league and that sort of thing. So I regret not doing all those things. But with everything that was thrown at me at that time and the reasons for making a decision, I still believe it was the right thing to do.
Darren, with that said, the likes of Harry Kane now, of course, not won a trophy so far at Spurs. What advice would you give to someone like him now? If Tottenham don't win a trophy this season, should he move on?
That's a tough one because of what I just said there. I think that, as advice, you finish your career, and you said, I won the Worthington Cup with Spurs. I went to Spurs to win things, and that didn't happen. So I know that Harry's very ambitious, but also loves playing for Spurs, loves playing for England. He's such a good guy. There's no ego. He's a good guy, and he's a Spurs man through and through. Everything that he wants to do with the national team, he can do with Spurs, and he's part of a top Spurs team. There's no doubt about it. I've always said that while the team keeps improving, then don't go anywhere. Why go anywhere? As Spurs are the team to be at. I think I'm the same as most people at the moment. It's a little bit up and down. The football isn't what we were watching under Pochettino, but I think we probably knew that when Jose came in, and Jose's there to win trophies. So we're in a final. We've had some really good performances this year, some performances that have been very disappointing and a little bit tough to watch, as I guess Tottenham people. We like a bit of entertainment, like we talk about the 94-95 season and playing with Ossie and those sort of things, but we didn't win anything, and that's what it's all about. So let's see. I would like to see him obviously stay there for the rest of his career, but I also want to see him do well and win things. Yeah. So, and I believe he can do that, and I believe in Mourinho. Mourinho's won things. He knows what it's all about. So fingers crossed we can get that trophy, and I think that will just breed a lot of confidence within the squad as well, and a lot of confidence, more confidence within Jose as well.
Do you know that, Darren? Since you joined Tottenham in 1992, we've only won 2 League Cups in all of that time, in 29 years.
Crazy. When you think about all the players that have come through, and the good teams that there have been during that time as well, it's definitely disappointing. There's no doubt about it. We, as I say, when I was at Spurs, 4 FA Cup semi-finals, and we lost another Worthington Cup final against Blackburn. There's been other finals that the boys have lost in, more semi-finals. The Leicester, so close when Leicester won the league. I mean, that was a tough one to take. I think that no one obviously saw that coming, and I think over a period of 2 or 3 years, Spurs were the best team. It was consistently over. Because Leicester fell away one year, then Man City fell away another year, but over the couple of years, Spurs were the consistent force, but they just couldn't get over the line. So it's going to be tough against Manchester City, no doubt about it. What a team they are, but what manager do you want to go up against? Arguably the best team in the world at the moment. It's probably Jose, isn't it? So
Exactly. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
He'll love that game. Hopefully, he gets the right result.
Yeah. Darren, let's go back to your career. 95-96 season. You were out. It was meant to be only a couple of weeks. It ended up being months. Of course, Euro 96 was coming up, and then you've been given this label, sick note. You absolutely hate this label, sick note, don't you?
Well, I mean, it's just, why would I like it? I mean, I want people to be on here and be talking about, you know, good things I did in my career and what a good player, hopefully they thought I was, and
Yeah.
you know, the way that I carried myself and the way I was loyal to, you know, to Tottenham and to the clubs I've always played for. Always been a good teammate and yeah, hopefully a good lad and a good friend to people. So, of course, that's what, you know, that excitement that you have of talking over, you know, my career up until 94, 95 turns a little bit to, you know, a little bit of a downer in terms of picking up the injuries and not winning as much as I should have at the club. So, yeah, that's disappointing. But, you know, I do know that's media driven. I do know that that's based on that season 95, 96. I'd done well, for Tottenham, but I had done really well for England as well, and was definitely almost guaranteed to be a starter in Euro 96. And then every week of that season, instead of the press asking Gerry about the game that the team had just won, he was asking, "Oh, when's Darren going to be fit?" And that became big news, and bigger news as Euro 96 got closer. And then the same happened with World Cup in 98. So I take it as a half a compliment in that it was big news, me getting back on a football pitch. And I think that's where it stemmed from. People jump on it, football fans listen to that sort of thing. Of course they do, and we'll jump on the bandwagon as such. But anyone who's, you know, seen me play, played with me, would know the injuries that I played with, which I shouldn't have done, which was stupid. But you know, it is what it is, and I know how many games I played, and I would love to have played a lot more, but it wasn't meant to be. It just, you know, I picked up those injuries. The treatment I received could have been better, should have been better, and I should have not played in certain games with injuries that made them worse.
Darren, I don't think a lot of Tottenham fans actually realise that, you know, you've said, you know, on a few occasions, you've not been shy in coming forward in saying it about the that side of things being shambolic and, you know, misdiagnosed injuries, you know, so things could have been a lot better for you.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that again, I think it highlights the fact that I was a top player at the club at the time, you know, that Gerry needed in the team, or George or whoever, you know, Christian Gross needed in the team when that happened. And squads are different now. And if that was the case, then, you know, if your heart rate monitored that it looks a bit off in training, then, you know, they'll pull you out of the game. In those days, it wasn't like that. I needed to be held back. I mean, I remember I'd be picking the phone up to Gerry saying, "Yeah, I'm all right, Gerry, I'm all right." And Gerry's really good about it. He's like, "No, I'm not sure." And I remember having the hump with him before I finally came back that season. I think I almost begged him to put me on the bench against Arsenal, just for 10, you know. And he put me, you know. I remember playing that game. I think we drew 0-0 that season, and I remember Teddy screaming over at Gerry, "Get him on, get him on." And I think that the idea, you know, was maybe I would play 10 minutes. So he chucked me on for the last 15 minutes, and the reception I got from the Spurs fans, I'll never forget. But just to be back on a pitch after going through what I had gone through with the injuries, breaking down with an injury is the worst feeling in the world. So to get back on the pitch was unreal. So as much as there were lots of dark times, it was also so great when I finally did get back on a football pitch, because I was just desperate, because that's what I love to do.
Darren, before we talk about Euro 96, let's talk about the dentist chair. Tell me all about it.
I remember. I can't remember. That was some night. It was Gaz's birthday. Of course, he was involved, and we had a game. We went to a function in the evening, and Terry said, "You know, boys can have a night out." And then we were flying back the next day, and you know, the function we were at went on for a bit. So Terry said, "Yeah, no, you're off you go." So off we went, and you know, good few drinks, and for some reason, T-shirts got ripped up a little bit. Gaza started that, as he starts everything. a few flaming sambucas flying around, and before you know it, you're in some dentist chair, and that's all you really remember. It was a fun night. It was summed up Terry really what he did. He turned that international team into a club team. No egos, with so many top players, great lads, and I think that's why that summer, became what it was. It was a set of lads playing for their country who all got on well, and it was a club mentality, and that was all down to Terry.
Do you know, Darren, I can't really recall a time watching England where the whole country came together and really, really backed the country as a football team, wanting us to win. And, everyone got behind the team. You must have felt that as a player.
Oh, of course. And I think that, they also sense that when the media are on your backs as well, and they jump on that a little bit. And then once they see, you got to give them something, haven't you? And it was of course, the goal against Scotland, Gazza's celebration, and that was it. We were terrible in the first game, so of course everybody's going to give you loads of stick and abuse, which is what happens. That's the pressure of playing for your country, and on top of that, in your own country, in a major championship. So disappointing start. Then the Scotland game, it doesn't matter how you play. It's like when we play Arsenal, you just win the game, and that's what we did. And an iconic moment with Gazza's goal, Gazza's celebration from the dentist chair, just summed up. And I just think that everybody just, from that moment, after the game, the song came on in the stadium. No one left. No one went home. It was unreal. And then, of course, you follow that up by playing against Holland, who, of course, were always going to be the toughest team that we were going to play in our group, and the toughest game. And we, play them off the park, and everything that can go right does go right. And playing for your country is pressurised. There's no doubt about it. But to be 4-0 up at Wembley under the lights, and the song's going around, football's coming home, and you're almost humming along to it, and you're just walking on air. It's an unreal feeling that you're playing as if you're a kid in the park, and you don't want the game to end. You can't get tired. You can run as much as you want. The adrenaline is madness, and it is one of the favourite moments of my career for sure, to be part of that team.
Yeah, wonderful. The semi-final, Darren, let's talk about the semi-final. You came so close to putting England through to the final, hitting the post. Of course, Gazza nearly scored as well. How did it feel as an England player to be walking back in that changing room knowing that we were that close and getting to the final?
It was just a numb feeling, really. I don't think it was so difficult to feel anything. It wasn't supposed to happen. It didn't feel real. We played so well. We were getting better and better. We played so well on the night as well. You just didn't see it ending that way. We finally won a penalty shootout in the quarterfinals against Spain. It's as if nothing can go wrong. And then, as I say, my chance, the ball's just behind me for a bit, where I've gone in too early. Then Gazza's, he's taken a step back and missed going the other way. It's just one of those things. And I mean, such a disappointment, of course. And who wants, another semi-final for me that I've lost. Penalties, my first dealings of losing a penalty shootout was the biggest game of my career. It just, it was really, really tough to take. Going back to the hotel, going to the stadium from the hotel, the whole way is just fans everywhere. It felt like we were, I don't know what rock stars feel like, but it was mad. It was crazy stuff. And like you said, the whole country were watching and were behind us and believed in us and believed that we were going to go on and win the whole thing. And as did we. So the disappointment was, of course, it was huge, but also very proud, to feel that love from everyone within the country is something that, you still remember. And, I watched a couple of the games in lockdown during the summer along with everyone else, and it brought up some memories for sure.
Darren, honest answer here. When Gareth Southgate stepped up, did you think he was going to score?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, of course, we had our first five who are all top penalty takers. I was going to be taking the next one after him, so I'm nervous. Yeah, to put it one way. but also very confident that he's going to put it in, and so confident in the team that we had that we were supposed to be there. I didn't see us losing, didn't see us missing a penalty, myself included. So when it happened, it just couldn't believe it. And Gareth had played so well in the tournament. People didn't realise just what a good player Gareth was. So calm, so on and off the pitch, that you just had such a belief in him that he would go and, be calm and collected and put the ball in the back of the net. But at the end of the day, you can hit a good penalty, a bad penalty, it can go in, it can miss. That's what it's all about. That's why it's, of course, everyone in England hates penalty shootouts for a reason. But when you lose one, it definitely doesn't feel fair.
Did Jurgen give you any consoling word, you and Teddy, after that match?
I mean, he did, but I can't even remember really. Like I say, it was just a numb feeling. I mean, I know we spoke, and of course, the guy he is. I mean, he was walking around consoling the England players as opposed to celebrating his own win. That's the guy he is, and the friend he was as well, and friend and still is. So, he a class act, and if we weren't going to win the Euros, of course, we have a massive rivalry with the Germans, but to see Jurgen get the more success was great to see.
Darren, I've seen before that you've described Christian Gross as the worst manager that you played under at Spurs, and I've heard and read reports as well that he used to make you do some very, very weird things, like away games, you're running around in hotel car parks, etc. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was just so different. I mean, he's such a nice guy, I just don't think we were ready for it. I think that's the reality. I think most teams probably do what he does now. Don't know about the 8 a.m. running around the Belfry before we play Villa and things like that. But I mean, and I just remember the press just jumped on it as well, and the team was struggling. And I think one Sunday morning, I think we got beat by Coventry or something 4-0, and the News of the World, just someone had a picture of us from 8 a.m. that morning before the game, running around either the Forest of Arden or the Belfry golf course, doing like a warm up or what. I don't know what we were warming up for, but and doing little sprints and things like that. And I think it kind of summed it up. And I don't think teams do that, but the other stuff of coming in on the following day on a Sunday for warm downs and all those sort of things, which of course the players didn't take to, but is now the norm. So a little bit harsh maybe, but we just weren't. I just don't think we were ready for it. Gerry was obviously a top manager, but of course much more old school as well, and of course players bought into that, and that's what players were used to. We just weren't used to it. But also I think that Tottenham play a certain way, and we had players who were lots of top players who played knew what the game was all about at that point, and we were very direct, and it was tough to play in it sometimes, especially for me who wanted to play and get on the ball, and I didn't want to play for a team that played like a Wimbledon as such, and that's kind of how it turned out. So that was frustrating, for sure.
Is it true, Darren, that Christian Gross sometimes questioned your injuries?
Well, he did the once, for sure. I mean, when he first came, and I think he'd just seen what I had gone through, and he wanted me to be positive about it, and he was a really positive man, no doubt about it. But once I'd had the problems with my groin, I knew if I did something that recreated it, like, so we played before a game, we played against Barnsley, and so on a Friday, we were practicing free kicks. I hit a free kick and I just felt my groin pop, and I knew I'd just torn it. I hoped that it was maybe scar tissue that broke away or something. So, of course, went in, spoke to the doctor, the physio, iced it. We would also then go to the hotel on Friday evenings, even for home games. But again, a different thing that the players didn't really take to. But I just sat there in my room all night, icing it, praying it was okay. Got up in the morning, did in the car park, did the 8 a.m., 8:30, jog and a few little sprints, and I couldn't do it. And I just said, Doc, no good, can't do it. And he's like, okay, yeah, let's go and speak to him. Spoke to him. He went, no, you're fine. You'll be fine. It's in your head. So I went, okay, fine. And I literally played against Barnsley. Luckily, we beat them 3-0, but I played with my left leg. I couldn't cross the ball. I couldn't, come inside, left foot cross. And then after an hour, he brought me off as if he was doing me a favour. And then we played Villa 2 days later, so it was around Christmas. I came in on Christmas Day, trained I said, no. He said, no, you'll be fine. Went out, trained. Naturally hit one ball with my right foot, and it just felt awful. So I just walked off, went in to see the physio. He come running in, started screaming at me. You don't walk, you don't leave my training session. You ask. And I was like, whatever. And Tony, the physio, was like, well, all right, get out. He's got on the bus. I still had to travel to Villa.
Wow.
And when I got there, he said, okay, sorry, blah, blah, blah. He said, okay, I understand. You can be on the bench. And I was like, oh, my Lord, what is going on? So I'm like, okay, yeah. And then, you'll be fine for Arsenal in a couple of days. And I was like, okay. I think we were 4-1 down, 3-1 down to Villa, and he put me on with 10 minutes to go when the game was pretty much lost. And I kind of summed it up. Luckily, Jurgen came the next day. And I remember sat in the changing room with him, and of course, most of the team had gone, so I'm having a chat, and I said, oh, my groin, it's just in pieces. So I'm going to go and have a scan today. Because I've told the manager, I'm having a scan. And if it shows that it's okay, I'll play. I said, but I know it won't. So I speak to Jurgen, and he goes, okay, well, give me a call afterwards. So I went and had the scan. Of course, there was blood everywhere, absolutely everywhere. I remember speaking to Jurgen. He went, look, let me speak to my doctor in Germany. I'll speak to the chairman, get you over there. And that was it. And so it's so frustrating when I look back at it now, of course, and even at the time. But I should have said no. I should have been firmer. I should have been stronger and said, no, there's no chance I'm playing. But I just always wanted to play. And that was a bit, obviously, very, very silly. But going over to Germany, from that point onwards, I would always just go and see Dr. Müller-Wohlfahrt from that point. And thank God that Jurgen had come back and helped sort me out.
Yeah, top man, Jurgen again. Darren, let's talk about the France '98. Of course, you got a goal in the World Cup. How was that feeling?
That's as a single moment probably the best feeling throughout my whole career. Just the fact that as I say, you're always dreaming of playing for England, watching World Cups. You watch World Cups, you watch FA Cups, FA Cup finals and things like that. But the World Cup, you just watch and it's amazing. It amazes you as a kid watching it. So to be part of it first and foremost after another year of struggling season with injuries, to get myself fit finally and be able to go in itself, I didn't think I was going to be able to do. So for it to go as well as it did, and I played great in the games, and to score the goal was unreal. And it was a nice goal as well. So of course, our family and friends all in the stadium, and the buzz of that moment will definitely live with me forever.
Darren, you scored 7 goals for England, 4 in friendlies, 2 in the Umbro Cup, and 1 in the World Cup. Now, scoring for your country. I know. Obviously, you've just said about the World Cup, but scoring for your country anyway. It must be just the best feeling in the world. And as you say, when you're playing football as a kid, every kid dreams of that moment, don't they?
Of course, they do. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember before an England game would come on, you'd be we'd be had the school field behind us, so I'd be over the school field, with my mates, playing football, trying to score these wonder goals and dream of playing for your country and go back indoors, have your dinner, and then watch England play. Nothing better. So to go and do it, I mean, is incredible. My first goal was in my second game against Greece, which we won 5-0, and I scored the first goal. One of the easiest goals in my career, but what a feeling. I'd scored one of my favourite goals against Sweden, which was a half volley that went in off both posts in the last minute to make the game 3-3. One of my better goals throughout my career for sure. So yeah, playing for England, I just think I took to it pretty comfortably really, and I think that especially playing out wide when Glenn. Before the Euro '96, I remember Terry Venables went with a new system which created wing backs, which meant that I had to do even more. Me and Mac had to do even more running, going back and forth, and it was definitely a difficult position to play. But we were both really fit lads, and Terry saw that as instead of playing defensive fullbacks, playing wingers in that system would make us more attack minded, which was great. But really, it was definitely hard work. So I think I scored 4 or 5 in my first 10 games for England. So it was something I was very proud of and still am.
Darren, in 1999, George Graham came in as Tottenham Hotspur manager. Now, obviously obviously an Arsenal legend, former Arsenal manager. How did that feel as a Tottenham player to be playing under him?
Well, funnily enough, I was playing for England in Sweden, and the night it came out, well, I don't even know if it did come out. I was sat with Merce on the bus on the way back to the airport, and he just said to me, he said, George is coming to your place. I'm like, what? Really? Okay, love that. He goes, he said, you'll love him. He said, you'll work hard. He said, but you'll love him. He'll love you. He said it was different class, and after the struggles that we had with Christian Gross, Christian Gross was a lovely man and everything else, and I think we had just won a game, and then he got sacked, which was again harsh, because you always think that you're always positive. You always think you're going to turn things around and things are always going to get better. But I think in the reality, there was a little bit of relief that that had happened. And George was a winner. And I was always of the belief that I think that we had certain players at the time that would, they would run quicker going forward than they would running back defensively. And I just thought that George would make us into a proper team. And if you've got top players like we had, and you make them work hard and you get them fit, you've got half a chance. And that's what George did. And we were really exciting under George, I think. We played some really good football at home, especially. I think we went away from home and it was a little bit negative at times, and he didn't want to get beat first and foremost. But training was good. It was tough. George had a great way about him. He's such a nice fella, a good guy. And it really did work, I think. I think George, obviously we won something, and then we got into a couple of semi-finals and those sort of things, quarter-final. I mean, George was a good manager, no doubt about it. And it was always going to be difficult for him with the Arsenal connection. And then, of course, once it came that Glenn was available to come, and the fans obviously loved that. And I get that, but I think people forget what George did for the club.
Well, you talk about George Graham being a winner, and he was, because, of course, you won the League Cup under George Graham, beating Leicester 1-0. Now, how is it picking up your first and only trophy at Spurs?
It was great. And, of course, a lot of talk had gone over the years of me not going to United and not winning this, not winning that. So, for me, yes, I had great times as well with, Euro 96 and going to the World Cup in 98. But, you want to win things. So, it was definitely a relief, no doubt about it. And the game was absolutely horrendous. I do know that. I was just buzzing, going. Everyone wants to play at Wembley, and I wanted to do it for Spurs, of course. I'd done it in the semi-final, but I wanted to play in finals and win things. So to go, I just remember going to Wembley Stadium with half the stadium full of Spurs fans. Doing it for England is great, but doing it with your own set of fans is even better, I think. So that was an amazing feeling, walking out for that final. As I say, the game was useless, but under different managers, we probably might well have lost it. Under George, we won it. And I think that kind of typified a George Graham sort of game. But actually, that wasn't down to George. That was down to, Leicester and the way that they set up and played. Even when we had 10 men, they were happy with the game, hopefully going to penalties for them, which was strange, really, because we had 10 men. They should have gone all out to try and win the game. But luckily, we got a great run from Stefan Everson, which, unfortunately for him, he picked up lots of injuries at that time as well, which was, a trait that was happening at that time within the club. But what a good player he was, and so fit, and that was typical of what he was capable of. And Alan Nielsen could always nick a goal at any moment, and there he was to score the winner. So great night. The night was probably better than the game.
Yeah. Darren, you won your last England cap in 2001, and your last 5 England caps come under 5 different managers. That must have felt very weird for you. Yeah,
it did, but I think it was nothing that I didn't even think about it until after my career. I think that when someone just mentioned it, and you just don't think about it, and that was a frustration of the sort of games that I always feel very proud that the first 28 caps I did have out of my 30 were all starts, and they weren't 10 minutes here or 10 minutes there, and friendly games that don't matter. I just feel like yes, there was lots of friendlies before Euro 96, but they all meant something. And to start games is what it's all about. So I feel like that was a great thing. But a real frustration that those managers all picked me when I was fit and available to start games, and disappointing that I wasn't able to be available for the games in between.
As you said, when George Graham left Tottenham, Glenn Hoddle then came in. You know, you must have been absolutely delighted. And it seems weird as well throughout your career, the connection with Tottenham and then England with Terry Venables, and exactly the same thing happened with Glenn Hoddle. How did it feel for you that Glenn Hoddle was appointed Spurs boss?
Well, I was disappointed that George has gone, of course, because I said as I always will speak very highly of him. But Glenn had given me my dream for England. You know, I didn't think I was going to be able to go to the World Cup, but he really had a belief in me. And some people say that he put me in front of Bex in that first game, which possibly he did. But I think he actually was going to play Bex in centrally, but put David Batty in there anyway. But he had a belief, and when I was struggling, and I would speak to him, and I told him what I was going through, unfortunately at Spurs with the medical team there and with the diagnosis, that he got me to go and see his old physio from Chelsea and masseur Terry Byrne and things like that, and I was going for treatment at Tottenham, but then I was going for treatment with Terry as well. So I did everything I could, obviously, to be fit first and foremost for Spurs, but also, World Cup coming up, I want to be part of that. And there's a manager there who's saying, I want you fit and I want you involved. So luckily, I got fit. He even put an England B game on for me. So grateful to Glenn for giving me the opportunity. So when, of course, I heard he was coming, I was in contract talks and I was out of contract that summer as well. So once I knew Glenn was coming, then I came back. I was having some treatment in Philadelphia for my torn Achilles tendon. I was getting near into fitness, and I flew back, and I just had a conversation with Glenn, and that was it. Within a couple of days, I signed a new contract, and away we go. Back to Philadelphia, a bit of treatment, and then back for pre-season. That first year under Glenn was different class. We played some great football. We had some great players. It was great to play that sort of football, which I knew Glenn would do, and both with England and Spurs. That's the way he is, and that's the way he plays. Tactically, definitely one of the best I played under.
Well, in his first full season at Spurs, of course, we got to the League Cup final against Blackburn, which of course we lost. Brad Friedel had an absolute blinder that day, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I mean, talk about frustration. But before that, the semi-final against Chelsea, another highlight for sure. A team that we could never beat. And then finally, we got the hoodoo over and we beat them 5-1. And the atmosphere that night at White Hart Lane was incredible. And then to play Blackburn in the final, of course, we're massive favourites, should win the game with all the players we've got. I think Mark Hughes played central midfield that day and man-marked me, which was a compliment, but my legs certainly got it after that. But that just was such a frustration to not win that game again. Like I say, right up there with the Everton FA Cup semi-final defeat. We should beat Blackburn. I think we beaten them a few weeks earlier where we played really well. Of course, they had good players themselves and everything else, but that was a tough one to take, and the manner in which they scored a very fortunate winning goal. The keeper Brad was on absolute fire. That was a bad defeat.
That was a long drive home from Cardiff that night. I tell you, it really was very disappointing.
I think that we were all hopeful of a big celebration, and we definitely didn't see ourselves losing, which is always a good thing. But I don't think it was overconfidence. It was just one of those games where certain things just don't go your way.
Darren, you mentioned that victory against Chelsea in the League Cup. Is that probably one of your favourite nights at White Hart Lane in your career?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. It really was. The atmosphere that night was incredible. I had so many good nights and days playing at White Hart Lane. Still loved the stadium. Still my fave. But that night was special for sure. Again, I mean, everything that can go right does go right. We scored great goals. Everybody was on fire that night. One of those games where you just don't get tired. The adrenaline is huge. You go into the game little bit apprehensive. You're a goal down. You're playing Chelsea. You can't beat Chelsea. You can never seem to beat Chelsea. So to get that early goal and then another early goal, you're like, oh wow, this is more like it. And then we just, they were a good team as well. That was a good Chelsea team, no doubt about it. So to do what we did to them was, not many teams did that. But that's what our team were capable of, for sure.
Yeah. Darren, you left Tottenham in 2004, but you were promised a new contract. What happened there? Can you talk us through that?
Oh, I think we were just in negotiations, and we'd had the chat, and I think that the club were looking to go a different way for sure. We had some older players. Teddy had left. It was myself, Gus, Christian Ziege, Jamie Redknapp. We're all now in our 30s. I think Jamie was injured at that time, probably most of the season. He picked up a bad one with his knee again, which was horrendous for him. And just by having conversations with David Pleat, and of course it was a really weird year anyway, with Glenn being fired and then us not having David Pleat as an interim manager. Had the conversation, was I was the one that was getting they offered me the new deal. We were in negotiations, and then I played when I shouldn't have again. When David Pleat asked me to with my Achilles tendon, we ended up winning those 3 games instead of going into the bottom 3. But I really messed up my Achilles, to be honest. And then when I had the treatment and we had a new doctor came to the club, once I spoke to my agent, I said, "Yeah, well, we'll might as well sign." I was so happy at the club anyway, even though the money was going to be reduced, in quite a big way. But when we spoke to Daniel, that said, "Oh no, we're just going to leave it now and wait till the end of the season." And then that was it. At the end of the season, I got a letter, and that was it. I phoned Daniel. I told him what I thought. Thought it should have been based on football reasons, and I don't think it was. And I was really disappointed. But that's football. And my dad always said to me, he goes, when they want you, they want you. When they don't, they don't. You'll find out one day. And unfortunately, I did.
I know you published that letter in your autobiography, didn't you? It was 2 lines.
Yeah, not the best letter, and it I've still, I struggled with it for a few years, to be fair. But then after I retired and I came back to the club and started coming to the games and doing ambassador type stuff and with the legends in the lounges and that. And I obviously see Daniel Levy a lot, and I've had a conversation with him about it, and he was very fair about it and acknowledged that he wished he had done things differently, etc. And you can't ask for more than that. And so yeah, I'm in a good place with it, and just very proud to have spent 12 years at the club. Always enjoy doing these sort of things, and it gives me great pleasure looking back on my time there.
Darren, have you had a conversation with Daniel Levy about your testimonial? Because you were at the club for 12 years. When's that happening?
I don't know. Funnily enough, when I did speak to him, we did have a conversation about it, and he did mention it, and he did say that, yes, you can still do it and that sort of thing. And he just said, you're just going to have to find someone to sort it out for you,
So it could happen.
Who knows? Possibly, yeah. I mean, he said, "Yeah, if you want," he said, I'm not sure how many people will turn up, but he said, it's there for you. He said, at the time, he said he felt that my agent possibly should have got someone involved to arrange it, but I did say, I said, well, I did get a letter from you saying they did give me a date, but the team were abroad on an Asian end of season tour, so. He said, "Oh yeah, well maybe, but of course, if you want one, you're more than welcome."
I'll look forward to it.
Yeah, you just have to sort it out.
Darren, let's come on to Tottenham today. Now, Jose Mourinho was obviously appointed manager back in November 2019. I haven't spoken to you in this time. What were your initial thoughts when Pochettino got the sack, and what were your thoughts on Jose Mourinho's appointment?
I was gutted when Poch went. I think I love what he has done for the club. I love what he did for the players as individuals. I think there was a spell where the England squad was made up of probably about 60% of players that he had coached from Southampton and Tottenham. I mean, whatever he's doing on the training pitch was working wonders for the individuals, which also can only work brilliantly for the team. That's exactly what happened, and it was so enjoyable to watch them play, come to the stadium, big performances from individuals, watch them go on and have great times for England as well. So disappointing. But, that now Jose's come in, and if there was one thing that didn't happen under Poch, it was winning trophies. And that's if that's what it's all about, then you've got to be happy with Jose coming in. And I was. And I think that, his time at Manchester United, I probably didn't see him coaching again, possibly, or managing again in the Premier League because of how he'd gone there. But when you sit down and you think about it, you think, he's been there, he's done it, he's got a team there that are capable of going on and winning things, surely. And he's a man who's done it all. He can show them the way. And I still think that can happen. I think that we're in a final. At times, it's been a little bit disappointing to watch and a little bit dull. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that, but we have had games where the players have produced performances that they are more than capable of and will win big games against Manchester City, against Arsenal at home. Going to Chelsea and getting the 0-0. That little period there was the time where people were talking about we were top of the league. It was false. It was early in the season, and that was just 2 or 3 games. And I think against the lower quality teams in the league, you've got to play probably with a little bit more forward thinking, a little bit more desire to get people forward, more attacking football probably, and that's a disappointment. And it's just about, for me, it's about getting the right balance between the two of them. And I think that hopefully we're gonna get that. And I think the last week's been pretty positive. I think it's been great to see Gareth playing. I think it's that's what we all want to see. He's quality, and I know as a player who has been out for a period of time through an injury, you can't just come on and play one game every 3 weeks. You can't produce that same stuff because you're not match fit. And that's what it's all about, because if you get tired in a game, you lose that quality. And I think that's, I'm just desperate that Gareth gets a run of games. I think there was one bit in the game against Burnley where he picked the ball up almost in a right back position. He knocked it past someone and went. And it was like, oh, yeah, that's the Gareth. That's what you want to see. Unplayable, unstoppable. And yes, he's older. Yes, he's going to be a different player, but he's still got that quality. And let's not waste it. Let's see it. Let's get it out there.
Darren, obviously you had that fantastic playing relationship with Teddy Sheringham, who then left Spurs, went to Man United, won lots of trophies, then came back. Do you see Harry Kane doing something similar?
If Harry was to leave, it would not surprise me at all if he were to come back, for sure. I think he loves the club that much, but he's obviously very ambitious. So if it isn't going to happen at Tottenham, then there may be a day where he does decide to move on. Fingers crossed it doesn't happen. Fingers crossed we win trophies. But yeah, if as a scenario, if he were to go, it wouldn't surprise me to see him come back.
Yeah. Now, goalkeeper Hugo Lloris, there's been lots of speculation about him possibly leaving at the end of the season. Now, as I said at the start of the video, you are the record appearance holder at Tottenham for Premier League games, 299 games. If he plays the remaining 13 games, he would be one behind you at 298. Do you see him at Spurs next season to break your record, or do you think he will leave?
No, I think I do. I mean, he's been an unbelievable goalie for the club. I mean, of course, we talk about all the wonderful talent we've got on the pitch, attacking wise that we've seen. But oh my Lord, I mean, the points he's won us over the years has been incredible. And what a player he's been. He's won the World Cup. He's done everything, and he obviously loves being at Spurs. And there have been times goalies go through periods, don't they, where they make mistakes, and when they make mistakes, it's highlighted. There's no doubt about it. And there's this year, lots of people are talking that way, but for me, he's still a top goalkeeper. No doubt about it. But we'll see. It's nice to have that record. It really, of course, it is. especially when people talk about the injuries. So I'm sure he will be there next year and will break it, though.
It's funny, Darren. Lots of people associate the name Darren Anderton with injuries, but yet you played more Premier League games than any other person since '92, and of course you are still 15th in the all-time record of assists. You must be pleased with those records and stats.
Yeah, of course, and that's I think that's what I said to you earlier when you mentioned the sicknote name as such, and a nickname. Of course, that's what I want to be talking about. Are those things that I did in my career that were positives. A career is full of ups and downs, no doubt about it. And you want to try and have as many ups as possible. And we all like to talk about those. So that's what it's all about. And of course, I love the fact that my name is associated with Tottenham Hotspur, and people talk about me in a very positive way. And the fans have always been so good to me there, and really do appreciate the loyalty that I did show the club as they did to me as well. So. Always really nice to hear those stats, especially when people do want to throw if they want to throw the injuries out there, they might as well throw those nice stats out there as well.
Exactly right. Darren, just going to go through some of the viewer questions here. Alex writes, good to see Darren on, absolute legend, hope all is well. Good result of the weekend. Now, what did you make of Tottenham's performance at the weekend against Burnley, and of course only a few days before beating Wolfsburg 4-0, because we were in dreadful form in the Premier League up to that game, 5 defeats in 6.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's been frustrating. Performances haven't been great. I just think there is a real upbeat feel about the place after the second half against West Ham. Timings are a bit different here. Luckily, I missed the first half and woke up about 4:45 in the morning and watched the second half, which was much better. And it was good. I think it was good. It was a really good reaction to going 2-0 down. And Gareth looked like he wanted to be on the ball and make things happen, and that's great. And we do rely on Sonny and Harry too much, no doubt about it. So I think it was a really good performance. When you score early goals, it helps, no doubt about it. Especially against a team like Burnley, they're going to come, they're going to sit there, and they're going to make it difficult. And they're going to be tough to break down. If you get that early goal, changes everything, and then that gives players confidence. And if you're going to give players like Harry, Sonny, and Gareth confidence, they're gonna go out and make things happen. They're going to win games, and they're going to entertain, and that's what we want. So that's a great, for me. I'm really positive about it going forward. They've got that big win under their belt, and they can go into the next couple of games, and I no doubt in training this week be full of confidence.
Darren, you mentioned earlier about Jose Mourinho being the manager, in a cup final. That's the person that you'd want to be, and I completely agree with you. How confident are you feeling that Tottenham will lift either the League Cup this season against Manchester City or go all the way to the final of the Europa League?
I'm confident, but I'm also a very big fan of Pep's Manchester City team. I think they are an unbelievable team, and it's going to be really tough. But as I say, if you want a manager to stop a team that is arguably the best in the world at the moment, it would be Jose. I remember watching Barcelona, what a team they were, and then Inter Milan beat them over 2 games with Jose. Ridiculous how anyone could even think about beating that Barcelona team. So Man City are going to be huge favourites, I think, and rightly so. But I just believe that with the players that we've got, we can cause problems for any team. And then if we're set up well and difficult to break down, then it's going to have to, for us to win the game, we can't have it be open, I don't think. I think that's the way Manchester City will, the way they play, they are too good for everyone. But if we go in with a game plan, which I'm sure Jose most certainly will, then we got a chance. Can't give them an early goal, that's for sure.
What about the Europa League, Darren? You thinking that Tottenham could go all the way?
I think they can definitely go all the way, and I think now it's knockout, and the way that we're playing, and why not? I don't see why not. I think that it would not surprise me to see us in 2 finals this year, absolutely. And I think that the Europa League is a really good chance for us.
The trophies are coming, fingers crossed.
Let's hope.
Paul writes, bet Darren would love to play at the new stadium. I know you've obviously played at the new stadium because of you played in the Legends game, but what do you make of it, that day, Darren? I know, like, walking into it as a fan, you just think, wow, but you've played there. What is the main difference with this stadium to, of course, White Hart Lane, where you used to play for Spurs?
It's just, obviously it's brand new. It's twice the size. It feels, it's incredible. Still got such a good feel about it, though. It feels like when you walk it out of the tunnel, it still feels the same. I just love the fact that where it is. I love, of course, teams move their stadiums, everything else, but just that drive to the stadium is the same. And then you see it and that buzz and just everything around it is the same. It's a beautiful stadium. I've been to the Dallas Cowboys Stadium for a Super Bowl a few years ago, and it's similar to that, and that's the best stadium in the world. It's incredible, and I would love to play in that stadium week in, week out, and entertain the fans. It must be tough for the boys playing there at the moment with no one there, but still, it's even empty. It's some stadium to play in.
Well, we've got your testimonial to look forward to.
Yeah, probably could do it next week.
Darren, a question on screen now. What's your biggest regret of your career?
Good question. I don't really have regrets. I would probably say losing the semi-final in the Euro '96. When you look back on it and watching the games in the summer and on the rerun, just thinking how we've been treated as a team 25 years later, as a team that lost in the semi-final, as to what would we be treated like if we had won it. And we would, it would be proper legends. So it would be, I think that would be it probably. That whole summer again is one of my favourites to look back on, but also to think, what if? That's probably the biggest what if I have yet.
Darren, you talk about treatment of players. I heard you on an interview some time ago talking about the treatment of the England players from the Argentina players in '98. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, that was madness, really. You kind of don't think about it at the time, but when you think back, obviously it was crazy because you play a game like that, and that was a classic game of football. It really was incredible. It was such a good game. It had everything in it. And of course, we end up losing on penalties, and so we're absolutely devastated. Glenn had all the families that were there were able to come to where near the back of the stand or wherever the change rooms were in the stand, and we were talking. Everyone's disappointed, a few tears going around, and then suddenly, of course, then you see them get on their bus, and then as they go by, and then they're banging on the windows and dancing up and down. It was, there was a few swear words going around, I'll tell you that, from not just players, but families and everything. That was ridiculous. I've never seen anything like it, and why would you have that? Why would you behave that way? It was really bizarre behaviour. And then 4 years later, unfortunately, I wasn't part of it, but then we beat them in the World Cup when it was in 2002. So that was great. I remember watching that one and never been so happy to see a team win a game.
Darren, what ex-Spurs players do you keep in touch with now? Because Richard Evans writes now on screen, whatever happened to striker Chris Armstrong? You don't ever see him anywhere. Do you know what he's up to?
No, I haven't seen Chris for a long time. I texted him years ago, and I think he's doing okay. I think he's back in Wrexham was the last I heard. But no, that's a good question. You actually really do never hear of Chris. Chris is such a good lad as well. I'm sure if you ever saw him again, he would be exactly the same. A proper good lad.
Darren, lastly, how confident are you for Spurs finishing in the top four at the end of the season?
I think it's going to be tough. I think but the league is just crazy. Everyone's beating everyone. The results are so strange. Just got to get on a run, and who knows what could happen. I think it's going to be really tough. It's because of the inconsistency that we've displayed so far. it's going to be a tough one. I think let's hope we can win a trophy. Yeah, that stadium needs Champions League football. It really does. And of course, top players want to play in Champions League football. So, desperate to try and get back into that.
Darren, I can't thank you enough for all of your time spent today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I could go on for hours and hours, but I must let you go. We've been on now for an hour and 20, so I can't thank you enough. Just want to ask you one favour. Can you text Jurgen Klinsmann for me so I can get him on next?
Like it. All right, mate.
Darren, thank you very much. And sorry, go on.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you very much indeed. And as you say, let's hope that Tottenham can put a trophy in the cabinet. Darren, thank you. And come on, you Spurs.
Yes.